Hey there! Yes, it's time! It's time! By the way, when you're doing all these exercises, it is good to get your hands above your shoulders. I don't know why, I think it helps. And keep your fingers loosely separated. Whatever you do, don't do this sort of self-clawing motion. I know I do it, but I'm actually doing more like fires of happiness, blah. All right, this is part and into suffering part 11. What will it take to stop complaining? Oh, the complaining. All right. This is an important next step. Heretofore, we've been talking about just getting some relief. Now it's time to refocus on different things. Start thinking about different things. Not thinking about that old stuff, not thinking about that stress and worry that's bothering you, but to refocus. And I've thought that to myself about complaining, because I find myself complaining often. And not as nearly as much as I used to. Because now I catch myself. I'm like, oh, Sean, you're complaining about stuff. And sometimes those thoughts have like a momentum. Like you got inside your head, you got to finish that complaint all the way to the end. Ah! And of course that speaks to grooving those neurons or whatever and just drilling that in, just getting that furrow hard as concrete in your head. And I say you, but I mean me. This is where it starts. So anyway, I thought to myself, Sean, what would it take for you to stop complaining? Oh, I didn't think of that. I get out a blank sheet of paper and I think, okay, I'm going to put a line down the middle. And if I need to, I think about the things that are bothering me. I put that on the left side. And then on the other side, I think, what would need to happen for that to go away? Now, the better result of that is to simply write down the positive side. What would I like to see happen? And not even think or give any sort of energy or momentum to the other half of it. But if need, you got to start somewhere. So maybe you need to make a line and you need to say, okay, here's the things that are bothering me. Da, 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 da. And it may be as you're writing these, the thought is so strong and you're so dug into it that it's like old habits die hard to complain about this stuff. And make a little note. The number of years I've been complaining about this same thing. The trouble with so-and-so is this. And if only they would go away, my life would be complete. Would it now? Or would you just drag it into a new city and keep mentally doing it and subconsciously self-sabotage and create those same stupid relationships all over again? Do you want that? And if you do, how long? How long do you think you're going to live? Excuse me. All right. So that's the piece of paper. That's the exercise for today. Get a piece of paper, write down, if you have to, write down, number 1, what's bothering me? This. Number 2, this is bothering me. Because if it's nebulous, you're just going to give yourself an ulcer. It's going to manifest in your body, typically, as some sort of bad thing. So write down, this is what's bothering me mentally. And don't be shy about it. Just write, I have persistent headaches. Whatever. Maybe it's a condition that doesn't seem to be connected to some mental issue, but I'm here to tell you it's connected to some mental issue. I believe it is possible just to let it go. One day to the next, just let it all go. And I think some people do that. For me, I've had to do exercises and kind of get to the point where, okay, good, this is gone now. Okay, so what you do, and then you take that piece of paper and you gently crease it if you have to. You rip it apart, and you take that negative part, the part where there was the problem, and destroy that piece of paper. Rip it into pieces, flush it down the toilet, carefully and safely burn it in a burn bowl. Apparently that's some old Buddhist temple thing. I saw that on YouTube somewhere. But you get rid of that, get rid of it entirely. It's gone now. And just have the positive part. And if you have to do that over multiple days, do it for a year, then maybe that's what you need to do to refocus, take that old thinking patterns, get rid of those, clear the field, and plant some new crops. Get something new. Dig some new grooves in your neuronscape there. And that's the question of the day. What will it take for you, dear listener, to stop complaining and complaining about the same things over and over and over and over again? And I ask myself that question. Sean, what will it take? Making these videos, I've actually had a few where I was like, oh, I still have some weeds over there, and I need to get rid of those forever and plant something new. Splice those out. And my last thought, which I was going to do a whole video on it, but I don't think it merits a whole video, is just an idea. The idea of forgiveness. So if you're like, you know what, I'm going to forgive so-and-so. I'm just going to forgive him. And forgiveness this, then that. Well, guess what? You're still thinking about it. You're still hashing it out in your head. The forgiveness is just another time to relive it, rethink it, make it into a big deal, and bring it all back. So there's a difference. Okay. You can't forgive someone if you never condemned them. If you remove the condemnation, then forgiveness isn't necessary because it's simply not registered as a problem. Let me give you an example. Before my dad died, and by the way, my father passed away of cancer. He had about 3 or 4 months heads up. And I went to visit him when he was still doing well. I visited him twice, when he was doing really well, and then I think, like hours before he passed away, which was awful. And so anyway, I visited him when he was doing well, and he said, Sean, I really regret taking you kids from your hometown in 1979 and taking you to Alaska. And that was the story. In 1979, when I was 9 years old, my dad took us out of school, sold our home in a small town where we had lived most of our young lives, and we went to Alaska to mine for gold. He got gold fever. And that was funny because he was carrying that the whole time. He was like, yeah, I did wrong to my kids by uprooting them. And I was like, wow, because I never registered that as a bad thing. Going to Alaska, that was the best. That was a huge adventure. It turned me into a reader for life because that's all I had was books to entertain myself. And it was the greatest thing ever. And I'm glad that it happened. And it never occurred to me that there was a problem. But he was there like, hey, I'm wrapping this all up and this is what's on my mind. I hope, you'll forgive me for this thing. And I was like, Dad, there was never anything to forgive because I only registered it as a good thing. So that's an example of the not condemning thing. And of course, there may be some things where it's like, oh, some other person, you have registered like a wrong that they did to you. And you're the one that really has to live with it. Maybe, and it's possible they don't even recognize it. They never thought of it as something wrong that they did to you. And so So I think that's one trick, is to go back, just remove the condemnation, and I guess you could call that a form of forgiveness. But the point is, if you're still thinking about it, it ain't gone. Never got rid of it. You never did it. And the only way is to literally, is to, in every real way, simply just get rid of that memory, get rid of the whole lot of it, and excavate the entire infection so it never comes back, because it never existed. Oh yeah, what would that be like? To go back in time and make something never happen, that would you still hold on to it? Ooh, that's interesting. What if you could go back in time and head off all the events of that bad thing, whatever it was, that happened to you, and that it never existed? Well, you'd still remember it, but it never happened. Would you still hold on to it then? Or would you finally let it go? And that answers the question, what will it take to stop complaining and refocus on positive things that you actually do want? Take that piece of paper, make the line down the middle, get rid of the negative half, literally, physically take it, and that's a little catharsis, guys, to actually rip that part off and destroy it, and then take the positive aspect. This is the positive things that I'd actually like to see in my life, and hang that on the wall. Oh, wow, that's powerful. So amazing. Do it as many, rinse and repeat. Until next time.